Thanks to him, the power became stronger, making him the only one to be grateful for this new strength. In an instant, all levels began to be drawn to Alka, increasing his owner's level. In the blink of an eye, our owner's level became very high and looked very different from before. However, the girl suddenly asked if they could leave soon. As she approached Alka, she realized that the Goblin Lord had said he could defeat him after all of this. Now, he was the strongest adventurer in this place, among the strongest. However, he decided to gather materials to sell in the city. He thought it was amazing because it was the great fang of the Goblin Lord. Before, Alka had never even imagined that the day would come when he would acquire such rare materials. The girl told Alka not to worry because she could carry it, as her bag was already full of various materials like leaves from the Goblin Lord, cursed bones, and many others. Alka simply thanked the girl for helping him with the materials. The only thing she said was not to worry because he had saved her life, so it wasn't hard for her to help. However, the girl suddenly asked what they were going to do with the materials. Alka replied that he had gathered good materials and thought a bit about the fact that he no longer needed to hide and decided that they could return to the village. However, he was also concerned that if they left the goblins like that, they could kidnap the village girls again. So the only thing he asked the girl was if she would stay with him a little longer. The girl replied that she didn't mind but asked where they would go. Alka turned around and said he would not allow more kidnappings in the village because he would destroy all the goblins in this cave. After some time, when they had destroyed all the goblins, they decided to return. Alka had now reached a high level, thinking that when he left the village, he was at level 1, but now he had greatly advanced. At this high level, he would be able to defeat more monsters in the area. Finally, he had become a true adventurer, and it made him very happy. However, then the girl stood in front of Alka and said that she had never heard of an adventurer with a 3-digit level. She talked about the fact that he was clearly no longer a beginner but the strongest adventurer in the village. Alka understood that there was truth in the girl's words. Besides, he had never seen an adventurer with such a high level before, saying that he could absorb the level of defeated enemies and that there was no need to worry because he was also surprised when he first saw it. The girl said that with that power, he could become the strongest and crossed her fingers for him, hoping everything would go well. However, while Alka was talking to the girl, a group of boys came out from the other side, greeting Alka as a thief. But Alka turned around and immediately recognized it was Sark. He immediately asked what kind of armor he had. They laughed, saying that since he couldn't level up, he decided to rely on equipment, as he was always a thief despite wearing fine armor. Moreover, he remained weak, and some equipment wouldn't help him much because of the significant level difference. This time, Alka had no intention of listening to all the mockery and immediately attacked the person with a knife, saying he was tired of hearing it and asking him to be quiet. When Alka approached the person with the knife in hand, he only made one request: be quiet and don't speak again, because he was tired of hearing it. However, the person saw his reaction and asked how he dared to treat him like that, quickly raising his foot and deciding to attack Alka. As he hit Alka, who moved slightly to the side, the person told him not to be arrogant while drawing his sword. The only thing remembered was that the person was a thief, but what happened next was clearly not expected by the person. Alka easily knocked the sword out of the person's hand and placed it on the ground. The person's friends immediately drew their swords, and Alka turned and asked if they also wanted to try fighting him. As the person sat there, he realized that Alka had already reached a high level. But how could he have been at level 1? Alka replied that his level was 20 and that the person was weak because Alka was already several times stronger than him. One of the boys who decided to check approached Sark, saying to check his level. When the person pulled out a tablet to check the level, he was very surprised because it was impossible for Alka to have such a high level. At first, he thought it might be a joke, but it turned out to be true. When the person looked at Alka, he couldn't understand what kind of monster he was. However, Alka sighed again, thinking that at first, he was a thief and now they were calling him a monster, saying that he was the most ordinary adventurer. However, when Alka said this, he was very surprised by the fact that the children immediately ran away. He realized that his speed was actually quite high as they were frightened. The girl looked at Alka and said that he really seemed to have changed and was very happy for him. She turned around and asked him to follow her. She also suggested that they tell everyone about his new abilities. But Alka still had one small task to do because he needed to take care of something. He returned to the man he had visited before leaving the village, who also asked what he needed. Alka replied that he just wanted to sell some materials, but the man still remembered him by his old nickname as a thief and quickly said that there was no point in wasting time because he was likely bringing some kind of junk again. But Alka just smiled at this and asked how he would feel after all this. If it was junk, of course, it would disappear. He showed the large fang of the Goblin King, and the man immediately grabbed the fang and started wondering if it was fake because he didn't understand where he could have gotten such an item. Alka replied that he had defeated the Goblin King and that's how he got the fang. The man said that he couldn't just take his word for it given his previous reputation. Alka immediately went to the girl, who happily confirmed that it was true. However, as soon as Alka started taking out other materials from his bag, the man was shocked because he couldn't understand how this was possible, and the only thing Alka asked was if he was going to buy them or if they would go elsewhere. Of course, the man said he would buy everything because how could he refuse such rare materials? Alka just smiled and said that he hoped this time they were worth a fair price. After selling the rare materials, as per tradition, he decided to visit his friend who had previously bought bread from him. As soon as they saw Alka, they immediately called the old man to see who had come. The old man was very surprised when Alka arrived, and he immediately took out a bag, not of materials, but of gold. The man was very surprised, not understanding where Alka had gotten so much money because it seemed unbelievable. Alka replied that he had finally managed to defeat the strongest monster. Of course, the man just congratulated Alka, very happy for him, and the first thing he did was, of course, hug him because he was so glad that his friend had really succeeded. Alka just smiled and thanked him for all the support. However, suddenly, Alka heard something in the distance. He turned around and saw a large group of people starting to gather in one place, looking into the distance, and the boy immediately ran toward it, asking the old man and the girl to wait there. After all, there was a monster capable of breaking through the fence and attacking the village and beginning to attack the villagers to destroy them. But Alka, fortunately, was nearby and managed to deflect this attack towards the girl. As soon as Alka managed to destroy one monster, he immediately asked the girl if she was okay, and she replied yes. However, Alka realized there were a few more monsters and wondered who they were. But he didn't care because they shouldn't have appeared in the village today. Even though there were level 8 werewolves in front of Alka, there were quite a few of them, and seeing the group of werewolves, Alka understood that he couldn't let them into the village. The people immediately requested that they call Zark and his group because they didn't understand where they had gone. Alka just remembered how they immediately started running away from Alka, realizing that he had to take responsibility for destroying all the werewolves that came to the village. However, the werewolves were very aggressive with the goal of destroying the boy who stood in their way. Alka understood that they were level 8 and posed no danger to him. Although they usually posed no danger to him, there were quite a few of them, so they could spread out and attack people. Alka realized that there were still many villagers left, but he couldn't forget about them, so he made the only right decision. He understood that if he did nothing, all the villagers would simply be destroyed because the werewolves were already close enough to the people and trying to attack them. But the boy chosen by one of the werewolves was very lucky because Alka arrived just in time to destroy the werewolf that decided to attack the boy. However, this was just the beginning because when he turned around, he saw there were still many werewolves there. Of course, he immediately jumped into battle, destroying the werewolves in his path. The people thanked him for saving them. They then recognized Alka, thinking he was further away. They said that he could be called anything because now he had more important things to do, even though they called him a junk collector. However, he couldn't just leave them. Everyone immediately recognized Alka, calling him a junk collector for having saved their lives. They were very surprised because they didn't expect that he would be the one to save them. But suddenly, the hero realized that he had leveled up again, but considering there were werewolves, he realized that if he had defeated them, he should have already reached the desired level. It turned out that one had escaped, but as he turned around, he saw there was a werewolf on the roof of one of the buildings, and below it was a little girl who was very frightened. The werewolf began to jump from the roof towards the little girl. Alka understood that even with a very high level, he couldn't save everyone. However, because the girl was so small and didn't know what to do, she could only watch as the big werewolf flew directly toward her. Alka realized that he couldn't let this happen, but then it crossed his mind that maybe he could throw his sword. He realized that he only had one chance, and rather than regret it later, it was better to do it now. Although it was risky, he decided to throw his sword without regret in the future for not doing it. The sword flew quickly toward the werewolf, and the frightened girl covered her face. As Alka had hoped, the sword hit its target, knocking the werewolf away from the little girl and destroying it. After a few seconds, Alka approached the terrified girl, who still didn't understand what had just happened. The girl hugged the hero joyfully and immediately asked if he had come to save her. He replied that, of course, he had come to save her and was glad that she was okay. The girl smiled and thanked the hero for rescuing her. Alka was very happy that he had managed to save the girl from the werewolf. However, now Alka was surrounded by many villagers who were literally swarming around him. One young man approached Alka like a scavenger and said they wanted to speak with him. Alka thought he should prepare for their displeasure at being saved by a scavenger. But suddenly, when the young man mentioned the word scavenger, Alka turned and said that he should leave because they didn't want to see the face of a scavenger. But suddenly all the villagers asked him to stay. Alka turned and asked what else they needed, and the only thing they said was thank you. The mother of the girl Alka had saved also thanked him for saving her daughter from death. However, when Alka saw the woman bow, he immediately reached out his hand and asked her to lift her head, saying there was no need to do that. He just wanted to help them, and that's what he did. Alka said that he used to collect loot from the dead, and that wouldn't change now. But now he had the power to help others because he would become an adventurer, helping others. They should also keep an eye on him, as he would be very grateful for that. They would understand that on this day, a miserable scavenger had transformed into an adventurer who saved the village from destruction. The next day, while walking along the road, the girl Alka had saved saw the young man and immediately ran towards him. She greeted Alka warmly. The young man turned to look at the girl. He hadn't expected to meet her, but he quickly asked where his armor was. Alka smiled and asked about the abyss armor. He said that now he could put it on and take it off at will just by snapping his fingers. He had discovered this that morning, and thanks to this armor, he could finally become a true adventurer. The girl said she was glad he had found it in the cave, but she suddenly remembered the dragon and didn't understand why there was a dead dragon in the goblin cave. Although that was important, now the events shifted to the goblin cave, not far from where the dragon had died. The same young man ran there and shouted for him to flee quickly. The young men ran fast and shouted for help. But suddenly, the young man turned and said he didn't understand what was happening because there was a huge monster there. The young man who sat down saw the monster's eyes and understood that this might be the end for him. Meanwhile, Alka suddenly felt something and turned around, not understanding what had just happened, but he clearly sensed something unusual. However, when he turned around, he was slightly surprised to see the crowd. The only words they spoke were "Thank you for saving us." Meanwhile, they began saying that thanks to him, no one was hurt and that he was willing to sacrifice his life to save them. In the end, everyone was very grateful, and it wasn't just words. But suddenly, a woman appeared with the girl Alka had previously saved, and the girl asked to be listened to. Then events unfolded a little earlier where the person mocking Alka ran after the Cyclops, thinking they had almost defeated it. His name was Sark, and his level was about to tell his students to run faster and immediately said, "All right, the level is." But suddenly the Cyclops began to enter one of the caves, and the children stopped, realizing that it seemed to have run up to this point while pondering the fact that because they weren't there when the village was attacked by the werewolf, they were fined a significant amount. This was the only reason why this prey should not be released in any way. Meanwhile, I moved into the cave, sensing a strange smell, and as it began to strengthen in the direction from which the smell was coming, after some time, I arrived at the place where the dragon lay. But suddenly the Cyclops raised its head and smelled the same scent, becoming incredibly angry when it felt it, as its saliva began to flow very strongly. The children who entered the cave realized that it must be somewhere ahead, but suddenly they felt something without understanding what it was. In the end, while eating, I smelled a strange scent and didn't start talking directly about them possibly vomiting, but the fact that one of the children saw it was quite shocking. They asked their friends if they saw it too after seeing how the Cyclops was eating the dragon inside the cave quite savagely, tearing it apart because it was very interested in its smell. But upon closer inspection, one of the children asked me to wait because he understood that something was wrong. I no longer paid attention to the Cyclops, which began to evolve quite quickly. The only thing the person said when seeing it was that it must be a joke, but then they pointed to Alka, who was walking down the path, and just thought that he was on the right track because he realized that it wasn't just a strange feeling since he sensed someone unusual. Approaching the cave, he realized that it seemed to have some kind of connection with this place, but something inside him surprised him and made him think he still didn't understand what was happening inside. But once inside, he smelled the same scent that grew quite strong and realized that the same dragon must be ahead. But after walking a little further, Alka just carefully looked at something incredible. The Cyclops was evolving. The power of one of the people was in its hands, and also, the Cyclops grew wings and became much larger than before. But then the Cyclops suddenly turned around and noticed Alka, and the first thing it did was turn its body towards him and throw the person it was holding in its hand, and literally, the Cyclops and Alka were facing each other. Seeing the Cyclops, Alka understood that it had a rather terrifying aura as he had never encountered such a demon before, but he still believed in himself because he now had the level, and with such a level, it was impossible to lose. Therefore, before making his move, Alka understood that it would be better to strike first. However, before he could do anything, his vest issued a warning, stating that the difference in levels was too great and advising him to avoid the battle. But as soon as Alka heard this, he found himself in a confusing situation, unable to comprehend what was happening. Due to a moment of hesitation, the Cyclops was able to launch a quick attack, striking Alka. The blow was so powerful that it sent him flying quite a distance away from the Cyclops. When he lifted his head, he couldn't understand what was happening or why, but he realized he had made a huge mistake. Alka was then instructed to check the enemy's condition, which he did while lying on the ground. However, upon seeing the Cyclops' condition, he couldn't believe it because the Cyclops level was extremely high, and the vest also warned that a strong accumulation of energy was forming in the Cyclops' head area. Therefore, it was recommended to retreat immediately, but Alka realized that he didn't have the strength to get up. Regret kept telling him that he should retreat right away, repeating it over and over, but no matter how much Alka tried, he couldn't get up or even move slightly because the blow was too strong. Realizing that if he didn't do something, this would be the end, as the Cyclops had already started concentrating energy in its head and would launch an attack in a matter of seconds. Alka began to think that he was truly going to die now, but his determination was stronger than the wounds he had received, and he slowly began to lean on his sword and stood up slowly. The reports continued, and with just 3 seconds before the attack was launched, the Cyclops used the energy from its eye, firing a powerful weapon at Alka. Fortunately, it didn't hit him directly, only pushing him back slightly. Looking at his opponent, Alka thought that he was already dead. So, the Cyclops decided not to finish him off and turned toward the cave exit. But just a moment later, Alka regained consciousness and started to rise slowly, asking his companion what had happened. He quickly got the answer that the enemy had left the cave, probably thinking that the cave's owner was already dead. Upon hearing this, Alka realized that he must have been wrong, although he was close to victory. However, he discovered that he had sustained minor injuries, and the first thing he did was suggest using a potion to heal his wounds. The boy had completely forgotten about the potion he found on the goblins and pulled one out. As he drank it, he realized that he could move more easily now. He felt grateful to the goblins for their potion, but as he looked toward the exit, he also understood that he needed to pursue the Cyclops, as it was likely heading toward the village. However, just as Alka started to leave, he heard a voice calling him like a scavenger, and more importantly, Alka recognized this voice. Turning around, he saw Zarga and immediately said that he had a potion on video and really asked Alka to give it to him because for someone like him, it was too valuable an item. And once his wounds were healed, he would immediately run, saying that the monster might go to the village and that as long as he was distracted, he could survive, so he quickly began shouting excitedly, demanding that Alka give him the potion. However, the person didn't understand that he was not in a position to command because people like him shouldn't exist in this world. Alka immediately spoke to the Abyss armor, asking if the potion could heal his wounds. The armor responded that it couldn't because the wounds were too severe, and even with the use of the potion, the chances of survival were 0, as he would die in a few minutes. But Alka remained determined and asked if the absorption ability worked on humans, and the armor replied that it did. Therefore, Alka told the person that he couldn't help him with anything, to which the person replied that he already knew, but the only thing he wanted was for the suffering to end, even if it meant asking too much. Alka responded that he had a way to save him from the suffering, but the person immediately said that he wasn't stupid and understood everything, so he should just do it. Raising his head, he only said that Alka could destroy him, and Alka realized that, honestly, he had hated this person all along, but now he understood that he would miss him. And in an instant, Alka leveled up. Meanwhile, the Cyclops had already left the cave and was heading straight for the town. Soon, it began roaring angrily toward the town, but by then, Alka was already very close, saying that he had finally found it, and in an instant, he launched his attack effectively, managing to wound the Cyclops without receiving a counterattack. However, Alka looked at the Cyclops and said that it must die by his hand, and he immediately began attacking the Cyclops, even though the Cyclops took a defensive stance to protect itself from the attack. Alka, now at the same level as the Cyclops, raised his sword and immediately said that they could start fighting, although at the same time, he had completely forgotten to say to be more careful. He said that even though he hated the Cyclops, he had to destroy his friend with the same hand, and now he was really angry. However, the Cyclops had no intention of continuing to listen, so it launched an attack, trying to strike Alka. Although the Cyclops was large and quite strong, its agility wasn't at the same level as Alka's, as the boy was able to leap onto the Cyclops' large and furious back in a single move, pushing off its shoulder and finding himself behind the Cyclops. Alka tried to strike it directly in the back with his wings. However, as he paused, he realized that the wings were stronger than he had anticipated, and meanwhile, the Cyclops began concentrating energy in its eye for a new attack, but Alka immediately shouted that he wouldn't let it shoot again. However, suddenly, Cyclops stopped focusing his energy, and Alka thought that it might be a trick because, with a sharp movement, Cyclops struck him, causing him to fly slightly. Yet, the damage wasn't as severe as last time. Cyclops hadn't lost hope in facing his opponent and pulled out a tree trunk to attack. Despite being on the same level, Cyclops turned out to be a difficult opponent, and Alka was tossed around like a feather, flying at full speed into a concrete wall. Alka wondered why, despite being on the same level, he couldn't defeat Cyclops. Since he was also using a potion from the goblin, he quickly drank it to return to normal, and after wiping his mouth, he simply said that this wasn't over yet because he was very angry, and his energy surged from his entire body. When Alka attacked again, his armor immediately warned him that there was a massive buildup of energy and advised him to retreat. However, the only thing Alka understood was that he still couldn't calm down and would fight until the end. Cyclops' eye shot missed Alka because he managed to dodge it, and at the same time, Cyclops' attack was followed by Alka's strike as he yelled for Cyclops to take his hit. Alka saw how Cyclops tried to protect himself with his wings, but Alka might have been fighting the hardest in this battle, and eventually his punch shattered Cyclops' wing defense. Alka realized this was a good sign because he was able to wound him, but what he saw next surprised him, as Cyclops simply turned around and began to stare at one of the houses in the city with evil intent. As soon as Alka saw this look, he thought that Cyclops truly wanted to destroy everything to regain his strength, and he quickly flew to stop him. Alka shouted for Cyclops to stop, but instead, Cyclops deliberately aimed his attack at the city. Alka realized that he had to get back as quickly as possible because the city was in great danger, knowing that Cyclops wouldn't communicate with the people. Meanwhile, Cyclops was already approaching the city, where the people who saw him were shocked and didn't understand what was happening. Previously, they had never seen such a terrible monster because all the previous monsters had been relatively weak. Alka arrived at the city very quickly to save the people. I saw directly on his back, but Cyclops didn't even notice Alka. He immediately began destroying houses and leveling everything in his path. Fortunately, the people quickly started fleeing after realizing that the danger was very close and that nothing could stop Cyclops, who was determined to destroy everything around him. Meanwhile, Cyclops began concentrating his energy in his eye to attack again. When Alka saw this, he simply said that maybe Cyclops was mocking him. Although Cyclops managed to fire his most powerful attack, which was so strong that it completely destroyed everything in its path, Alka managed to avoid this attack and was unhurt by jumping to the rooftop from Cyclops' side. Alka decided not to waste time and immediately attacked Cyclops, yelling for him to stop. He drew his sword and tried to attack Cyclops immediately, but Cyclops raised his hand just in time to defend himself. However, as soon as Alka landed on the ground, he turned around and saw that he hadn't hurt Cyclops at all because Cyclops had successfully dodged it. Cyclops quickly prepared for a ranged attack, but Cyclops was no ordinary creature and immediately charged at Alka, attacking him directly. Although Alka managed to turn and try to strike, Cyclops skillfully prepared his defense. Because his defense was so strong, Alka couldn't break through it. Realizing that this wasn't over yet, he quickly said that he would definitely save his people, maybe surrender or destroy him. But looking at Cyclops, it was clear that he had no intention of surrendering because once again, he began concentrating energy around his eye to attack. Even so, Alka managed to dodge the deadly beam repeatedly. As soon as Cyclops saw that his efforts were futile, he immediately reached out to deliver a physical blow. When Cyclops managed to hit Alka, he was instantly knocked off the roof and started to flee somewhere, although Alka landed very hard on the ground from the impact. However, he was still there and realized that he could fight, but the battle wasn't over yet. Only he could defeat such a powerful demon, and therefore he couldn't let his people down and just surrender to Cyclops. But then a man appeared, looking at Cyclops and saying, "That's it," and the man also realized that Cyclops was quite large. Cyclops started screaming angrily at the sight of the man, but from the man's expression, it was clear that he wasn't the least bit afraid. He only thought that this was a very small village, because even if they ran away, they would catch up. In this case, he could only buy time for the real hero. Suddenly, Alka stood in front of the man, looking at Cyclops. Then the man said that this was the hero he had been waiting for. Alka then asked the man if he was just a boy, how could he be a hero? The man said that he was the true image of a hero, and that's why he came to help him. However, Alka still didn't know how to defeat Cyclops. Then the man said that there was nothing wrong with that because they were already on the same level. The man quickly reached his hand into one of the boxes while saying, "Why worry about unnecessary things?" Once he found what he was looking for, he immediately handed it to Alka and told him to take it. When Alka took it, he realized that it was the same bread he had eaten when he was a scavenger. The man told Alka to remember those days because something had changed now, and Alka began to eat the same bread he had eaten before. He remarked that it was just as terrible as ever, but thanks to that bread, he was able to gather his thoughts. The man drew his sword and simply apologized for making the Cyclops wait, inviting it to continue. He raised his sword, pointed it at the Cyclops, and said that the only thing he would say was sorry for keeping it waiting and offered to resume the attack immediately. He began to attack the Cyclops with instant speed. Even though Alka was quite strong, the Cyclops still managed to hold its ground because their levels were equal, and the Cyclops' defense was strong. However, Alka wouldn't stop there, so his attacks continued. But then something happened that Alka clearly did not expect. The Cyclops managed to grab Alka with its hand, and Alka didn't understand what was happening. The Cyclops immediately threw Alka into one of the nearby houses. Once Alka stopped, he immediately thought that he was very tired of all this, but then he felt something behind him and heard a sound. Turning around, he saw a child on the video and simply said no. He immediately wondered why the child was still there, why he hadn't run away like everyone else from the village. Alka also began to shout at the child to run away as fast as possible because the Cyclops was close to them. The child immediately said that he was very scared and realized that his legs couldn't even move. Meanwhile, as they were talking, the Cyclops had already turned its attention to the child, and Alka realized that this was very bad. The Cyclops immediately jumped and landed next to the child, roaring angrily, but then it began to move its hand to strike and end all of this once and for all. But as the Cyclops started to swing, Alka shouted, asking if it thought he would allow that. Then, as the blow came, Alka landed in front of the child, literally shielding him with his body. When the child turned around, he saw that the same person was standing and protecting him from the Cyclops. Alka's injuries were severe, but the only thing he told the boy was to run as fast as he could because he couldn't move anymore. Meanwhile, the Cyclops began to concentrate energy near its eye to strike again. Alka kept telling the child to run because he knew the Cyclops was very strong, and the child cried, saying he would fight until the end because the man had saved him. Fortunately, the child managed to overcome his fear and started running away from the Cyclops, while Alka, watching the Cyclops, only thought that the child was doing the right thing. But at the same time, there was a large accumulation of energy, and Alka was advised to retreat immediately. Alka then apologized to the Abyss armor, thinking that this time he wouldn't make it out, and in an instant, the Cyclops fired its shot directly at Alka, sending him flying through a house and then through a wall after hitting one of them. He only thought that it was an incredible amount of power. After all, even though they were at the same level, the difference in strength was too great. But suddenly, Alka was advised to use a healing potion immediately, which he had completely forgotten about. However, when he tried to stand up, he realized that he was out of potions. His bottle was empty, but he quickly noticed that he had dropped one during the impact, not far away. He tried to reach for it with his hand, realizing he needed to grab it quickly. After all, he had to heal himself. But suddenly, something started happening, and Alka didn't understand what it was. He thought that maybe the village had already been destroyed, but he also thought that if he recovered, he could save it. Within himself, he asked someone to help him, and suddenly someone began pouring the potion into Alka's mouth. It was a girl who could make potions and had started helping the child. Once Alka woke up, the girl was happy to see him awake. The child stood up a little and asked who she was. The girl introduced herself as Lael, saying that she was born and raised in this village, and because of that, she wanted to protect it too. She was just an ordinary village girl. But meanwhile, Alka understood that all of this wasn't over because the Cyclops was very close. Lael quickly told the man to get up because he needed to return to the fight. Moreover, she had seen how he fought to protect this village and everyone in it. These people also wanted to protect the village, and despite everything, she was very grateful, just like everyone who lived in the village. Lael reached out her hand to Alka and told him to leave as soon as possible. But Alka understood that he couldn't do that because he was the only one in the village who could defeat this monster, and that was the only reason. But Lael also said that if he lost to this monster, no one would be able to save the village, and the village would be completely destroyed. Therefore, he needed to avoid facing the monster until his wounds were fully healed. Alka fully understood this as he felt pain all over his body and realized that he needed to rest a bit more before he could fight again. But the Cyclops didn't care and was already very close to Alka and Lael, planning to continue the fight. Lael reached out her hand and simply told Alka that they needed to leave quickly. Alka fully understood this was his only chance, so while holding Lael's hand, they began to run away from the Cyclops, who continued to chase them.